Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today I am going to be taking a look at how to generate terrain in Unreal 5.5.1. I'm going to start quickly here by generating a new game project using the template of third person. And I will be turning on starter content. I'll be mindful of this because it does add 600 megs, I'm guessing. A lot of information into your project file, into your project folder. Saving it to a good location on my external drive so I can move it around to different places. And I've given this project name the name Major Assignment. It doesn't really matter what it's called. Invariably, you might be migrating assets to new projects later using the migration tool. So it doesn't really matter what it's called. Just pick a really good spot for you to save it. Make sure it's on a fast drive, like an SSD external, using like USB-C would be really good. So I'm going to hit create here. It's going to take a while, In the meantime, I'm just going to talk about really good file organization, making sure that things are, in a good spot, giving solid names to your things, to make sure that in the future, when it does get migrated from one project to another, it's not a big cluttered mess in the content drawer of the master project. A really good strategy to use, especially if you're downloading a lot of assets from Fab, is to, from time to time, take a level that you're working on that has a few components from a lot of different places and migrate them out to a new project using the migrate tool. And that way, the new project that is going to absorb all of the content it'll only have the stuff that really matters. So that'll keep the new project that you've developed down in file size. And when you actually go to export the file and then compile it to make a final exe or app file, that you're going to have a nice tiny consolidated project, nice and clean. But some important stuff to consider, Epic has given us some really good naming convention, some really good titles, call them prefixes to file names. So for example, if you're making a texture, use capital T underscore and then a good name. Static meshes are SM, capital SM, etc., etc. Materials, capital M, and so on and so on. They tend to capitalize their folder names, so why not continue that convention? Keep your folder names capitalized while you're doing this process, and that's all the way through the workflow, from working in, say, Photoshop. Save out a PNG file that you want to use. That's a texture, capital T underscore, and then I like to always use the names of my static meshes. That if you're going to be using a static mesh called, say, tree, and that's the name of your static mesh, then call the texture T underscore tree, or T underscore tree color, or T underscore tree normal, these types of things. It's just going to help you to see them later down the line, yada, yada, yada. I'm just talking while Unreal does its initial load, which can take a while when you make a brand new project. Now, I'm going to get out of this third-person template, and I'm going to create a new level. So in my content drawer, just to start us off on a really good foot, and for those of you who are watching this who are not in my course, you can do this however you want, but I'm going to create a new folder. Now, for students in my course, I'm going to ask that this new folder that we generate have the name students. So I can now double click and go in there, and I can see all of the different people who are going to be working on different aspects of the game. That's going to help me stay organized as the producer of the game, or the top tier director of the game, the lead level designer, to see everything popping up inside of here. So I'm going to create another folder in here, and this is where my stuff is going to live. And I'm going to call this Kevin capital element. So I capitalized the first letter of that, unlike, normally we might use camel casing. In this case, I'm going to capitalize Kevin and capitalize element, still use camel casing, but instead this time capitalize the first letter of my name. And then inside of there, I'm going to put a whole series of folders. One of them is going to be textures. I'm going to have another folder called materials. Maybe I want to put this inside of that, because materials tend to have their textures located close to them. So I'm going to point something out. When I drag and drop this in, it says move or copy the textures. It's giving me the options to do some work here. It's their advanced copy. Unreal does something weird. It often leaves assets behind in old places, and then changes a manifest, a list of locations in another place. So whenever you do a move like that, this is hypercritical, right? I've learned this the hard way. You do a move like that, maybe you move a mesh, maybe you move a material, you always, it's just good form, is just right click on the root folder of your project. Can you do that to all? No. Right click on content, and somewhere in here there's an option to update redirector references. So we changed something fundamentally in where things are in folders, but these folders are kind of weird in Unreal. They're different. So we got to update these redirector references. Just whenever you do a move, just right click on content and do that. It's just good form. So I'm going to go back into my folder here, Kevin element, and continue building folders. I'm going to have a new folder here called animations, and I'm going to put another folder in here called blueprints in case I want to do some interactivity. So blueprints. I'm going to create a new folder called static meshes, and this is just going to help me down the line to keep myself organized. It's just nice to do all this kind of Zen thinking up in the front end of your project, just to sort of give yourself a really good platform to build this out on. So animations, blueprints, materials, static meshes, sounds are good. I like sounds in my games. Anything else in here? Well, we can add them later. And I'm just going to keep my level file on the root of my directory. So that means just having it in the same folder that my project is living in here. Not my project, but all my stuff, all my personal stuff. So when I do the migration with my students later, which is really cool in a pipeline, they're going to send me their level files, and when they do, they're going to be given a big long list of stuff that is incorporated in the level. Like, let's go here to third person maps, and let's pretend this is the third person map up here, and it lives down in the third person folder. Let's say I wanted to migrate this somewhere. So I right click on it, and one of the actions in here, asset actions, is to migrate. And when you do that, Unreal does this awesome thing where it says, this is all of the static meshes, textures, blueprints, all of the stuff, sounds, everything that's currently in use. It's like, wow, there's not really much going on in this level, but there's a lot of stuff here. So when I hit OK, it says, where do you want to send that? And I could send it to another project on my hard drive, which would clean up. Remember what I said earlier, I could clean up stuff. And I don't need all that other stuff from a fab asset pack that has bloated my project to 30 gigabytes. I can now send out stuff to another project, and it'll only send the things that matter to you. So maybe you only used a teapot from a 6 gigabyte asset pack. That teapot's only 500 megs. Wow, that's a big teapot, but you know what I mean. it'll only send that teapot and its textures and its materials, and maybe it's got a blueprint, so when you click on it, the lid opens, right? And that'll send that too. So it's super cool, and it'll ask you where to send it. But if you want to send it over a network to another machine, you can do that too, right? The only thing sort of lacking here is you can't really send it over the internet, but you could send it to another machine in another room, in the house, or in the office that you work in, etc. So I won't do that right now because I'm not actually doing a migration, but I just wanted to explain that to you. So back to my content drawer, to where I live, Kevin Element. I'm going to right click and make myself a new level. Okay. So I'm going to call this level something really creative, right? We're making a game in this course. I'm just going to call this my major segment, my major assignment. Okay. It's got a little star. That means it needs to be saved. So now's a good time to go up to File and Save All and get into pressing Control-Shift-S all the time. Don't even press Control-S in Unreal. Just don't bother. Control-Shift-S. Get into it. Save all, save all, save all. Because as multiple assets are open, you're going to want to save all the time. So I'm going to double-click on this now, and it's going to open up an empty level. It's got nothing over here in the outliner. Cool. And I'm going to start adding things to start building out my world. And to do that, under Window, I'm going to drop down and look at my environmental light mixer. And each one of these objects has a lot of properties. I'm just going to click 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we've got a good strong foundation to get started in an open world. So I'm going to close this down, right? I could have thought about all of those different properties as I was adding them, but I'm just going to put them all out into the world because they all impact each other. If I change the fog, I might want to change the clouds. If I change the clouds, I might want to fix the lighting, the direct lighting, etc., etc. So that's that. Now, the purpose of all of this is to sort of get into the world a landscape, which are really, really powerful assets that you can then paint things like grass on top of. You can paint trees on top of rocks. You can even deform them now to put in like tire tracks and all this cool stuff. If you haven't looked at the Captain America demonstration that they did for Unreal 5, you should. It's really incredible. 5.4 they were bragging about. Things are becoming even more optimized and cooler in 5.5. Anyway, so let us get a landscape going. So the neat thing about a landscape is when you first generate one, it'll just give you this. If I hit the create button here, it'll just give you this big old world, and often people will start, just painting on the surface, and that's fun. That's cool. Now, if this fits your art style, that's cool. Like you might be doing like a Breath of the Wild style where you want things to look really flowy, and so you can just fly around and you can just paint your stuff, and that's really fun. Or if you're going for hyper realism, you're going to have a really difficult time trying to really paint a mountain that's got all the little crags and rocks and edges and stuff like that. So we end up using these things called height maps, and they're cool because for every pixel that's on that bitmap, Unreal is measuring how white or black it is. And if you imagine RGBs sliding from 0 to 255, as we make something go from 0, 0, 0, which is black, to 255, 255, 255, right? That's moving all those three sliders at the same time, we're getting gray scales, right? So every pixel is going to, based on where it is from 0 to 255, it's going to push up and down the terrain. So it would be really hard for us to generate this ourselves. Then there's really cool world building software that allows us to create these things called height maps. Or we can just simply under Window do something cool now, Fab. Now Fab is getting a little complicated, and it's at times getting to be expensive, which is good, it's bad, but we're all in this industry to get paid, I hope. So in the end, it's good to pay people, but they do allow you to quickly isolate free assets, which is cool. So I'm going to type in height space MAP, height map, and hit return. And then under price, I'm just gonna drop that down and I'm gonna hit free. And it's gonna show me a bunch of stuff that I can download. And hopefully I can find something in this big old list here that's going to give me, I'm not interested in 3D models. I don't want 3D models, although you might want to use a 3D model, but I'm just looking for an image. I'm looking specifically for an image. 3D models, environments, 3D models. There's so much cool content in here that you can grab for free. Tools and plugins for a super map HFI 3D. Oh, wow. Yeah, all I'm looking for is a map. So is there a way, I'm new to Fab, so apologies for wasting a bit of your time right now. But I'm looking for, I can turn off GLBs. I don't want geometry. I don't want models. So I'm going to turn off FBX, GLBs, and GLTFs. So those are all geometry files. So I've turned off all those checkboxes in Fab, and let me see if I can't find me. There's a tutorial, there's tutorials and plugins, there's a super map, there's that thing again. Oh, where'd you go? Now we're into tanks and stuff. What's going on here? Let me see if I can't get a little bit more focused here. I'm going to type in snow, because the one I just recently found, height map, let's type in PNG, because that's what I really want, is a PNG. So I typed in height map PNG. I turned off all of the object types here, all the mesh types, and I made it free, and I found the one I was looking for. Height map, winter is coming. All right. This is a cool thing to download, and in class something weird happened this week. When we downloaded this, it actually blew away for some reason all of our folders, like the folders I just created, the static mesh folder, the textures folder, the blueprints folder, all that stuff just disappeared. Don't know why. Bug in the software. Maybe it's time to report it. So let's see if that happens again, and if it is, we'll troubleshoot it. If it happens again, we'll troubleshoot it. But it's free, and I'm going to add this to my project, and I have to agree to the terms. Yeah, I read it. Okay, accept. And it says it's only for 5.2, but really all we're trying to get out of this is a PNG file. And it's kind of a weird workflow here that we got to use. The developers told us about down below here in the description. Take the time to read descriptions. They can be really helpful. But it tells you how to export the PNG file and use it as your own standalone height map. Okay, so you'll see what I mean in a minute here. So I'm going to download the 5.2 version. It says it doesn't work with it, but it's fine. We'll add it anyway. Head over here. It's downloading height map. Winter is coming. It's coming from space. And meanwhile, I'm going to show you some cool stuff about terrains. One of the difficult things about making this look good, to quote Zoolander, I want this to be good looking. Ultimately, we're going to have to add a material to it, right? So if you look under the starter set of materials that come with the starter content, I'm going to switch from landscape mode back to selection mode. Over here in the top right, I can highlight my landscape, and in that list of properties, there should be one in here for the landscape material, and that's where we're just simply going to drag and drop our material when we find it. So open up your content drawer, and what's really cool is if you click on all and you search all, I can type in grass. And now this grass texture is really tired because it's been used a bajillion times in a million projects, but they give you this for free. And you can see right away that the name of it is M_grass. If I double click on it, it's going to open up the nodal network that builds out the shader that makes the material work. Now, at first blush, it's like, oh, it's not all that complicated. And then you zoom out and you're like, whoa, what is going on? All right. It's got all this stuff. Holy moly. There's all these wires and multiplies and the dead grass color. It's got texture sampler, texture coordinate nodes, and it's got the noise thing here. What's going on? Well, if you look carefully, it says micro texture variation. Micro texture variation. What's this guy down here doing? Oh, it's the macro texture variation. So the problem is if you put a texture down that you built that's simply using the basic inputs and you don't use variation on your textures, then you're going to clearly see that material repeat itself over and over and over again. And I used in class this analogy of sponge painting. It's this old thing we used to do in the 80s and 90s where you take a sponge and paint your walls. And if you just put the pattern on the wall side by side, it looks really ugly because you could see the pattern repeating itself. When really the intent of all of this is to make it look really like maybe you want it to look like stone or marble or something like that. But if you just repeat the texture, it doesn't, the illusion doesn't work, right? So you need these variations in the texture. And what this macro and micro variation system is doing is it's actually moving in two-dimensional space. It's rotating the textures and layering them and fading them out on top of each other using noise, right? That's what this guy up here is, this grayscale texture. It's noise, right? It's just a variation of coordinates, once more like a height map going from white to black, creating variety. So let's apply this to the landscape and you'll see the result. It's really beautiful. So I'm going to go back here, all, little reinforcement, type in grass. Cool. Don't forget to clear that out afterwards. It can be frustrating. I've got my landscape selected. I'm going to scroll down, if I can, to my landscape material here, and I'm just going to drag grass into that and wait for the system to compile the shader. Takes a while. Actually, it was really quick. And now when we zoom down, we can see that the grass texture looks really good. It looks really good. It's really nice. Now, in this biome that I've just invented, it's looking pretty cool. Of course, when I hit play, well, I wasn't expecting that, actually, because I haven't put a player start anywhere in the world yet. But yeah, that's new to the third-person template. You can look down at the ground really, really close, and you can see it's got some beautiful texture to it. And when you look at it from above, there's enough variety in that texture to make it look really, really good. And this is an aside, and I'm just saying all of these things about the textures because I was waiting for Fab to load in the height map that I just downloaded. That's cool, right? Fun. We don't spend too much time playing your world. That's a mistake I've made 1,000 times. You hit the play button and then a half hour goes by because you're just enjoying running around your world. Get back to work. Right? So I want to use that height map that I just downloaded. First question I have for the students in my class: what happened to my folders? Did it blow away all my folders? It did. Look at that. I don't know what just happened, which is cool that I got this caught on video now, because I'm going to send this off to Unreal and say, what the heck's going on, y'all? Because that literally just blew away all my stuff. It kept the root folder, but all of my subdirectories are gone. Wait a minute, I still have the word grass in here. Oh, hang on. What if I clear my search engine? Nope, weird. The level file's there, but all my folders are gone. What just happened? I don't understand. Yeah, I'm going to throw that question out to the community and show this video to people at this timestamp and see what happens. Oh well, No big deal. I can just make some new folders again. But for this tutorial, I'm just going to just carry on, and stuff happens, bugs are, whatever. So I'm going to just make my textures folder, because in here is where I'm going to import the height map. But first things first, I got to export the height map. Now, the new content that just came in is in a folder called height map v27. So I'm going to go into this developer's world, and I'm going to go into the textures folder. And wow, what a gift. What an amazing gift. She's given us all of these height maps, which is rad. Awesome. So this is the one I'm going to try. And you'll notice that there's in these textures, you got some black, you got some white. Black goes down, white goes up. And so this will definitely be a valley. So I'm just going to pick this one randomly as a test. Now, I can't use this right now. Can I? Let's see what file format it is. Oh no, I won't be allowed to use it, because when you're using the terrain tools, the landscape tools, you're going to have to import a new file. So as it mentioned on the developer's description, it says to export this first. So any asset you have, whether it's a static mesh, a sound, a texture, you can right click on it, and one of the options in this big old list is an asset action, and it's to export it. So I'm going to export this. Good solid organizational skills here. I'm going to throw into my folder called major assignment a new folder in here. Even though these are all the Unreal folders that got created when I made the project, I'm going to keep a new folder in here, and I'm going to do something. It's personal. I like to underscore name things. It makes it look unique, and it puts it at the top of the list. And I'm going to say underscore textures. And when I refresh this and go back into this folder, it's going to be at the top of the list. And that's going to identify for me that those are my things that I'm bringing in. So I'm exporting this to a folder, and I'm going to give it a meaningful name for me. I'm going to call this My World Height Map. Now, you'll notice I've wait a second, you've broken convention because you're not using capital on the first letter. This is a file that's outside of Unreal. Just a standalone file that's now I'm using camel casing. So when I import it, I can rename it. It's going to be related to this external file, so I can re-import it later if I edit it. But I'll just name it like this for now and hit save. Okay. So I've exported out of Unreal a file that's now on my external hard drive. Let's see if it's indeed there. So in my world building folder, world building, where is it? Major assignment, and now I've got underscore textures. There you are. There's my PNG file. Cool. So I'm going to highlight this asset here. My brother's texting me. Stop texting me. Make it quiet. My phone's banging. There you go. Silent. All right. So I'm going to highlight the landscape, and I'm going to press the delete key. Bye-bye, landscape. And I'm going to create a new one. So I'm going to switch my mode in the top left from selection to landscape. And this time I'm going to switch to import from file up here. Import from file, easy peasy, ... height map file, load it in. And I'm going to switch to my major assignment folder, underscore textures. And I'm just going to highlight this file and hit open. It's going to show you a really kind of low resolution attempt at the landscape now, and it looks pretty chunky. Don't worry about it. As it compiles the texture into the geometry, it's going to solve for all of the little interesting details and crags and stuff. All right, so interesting thing to point out is sometimes you'll get a height map and it'll be really, really tall, or it's going to be really, really the mountains are going to be really, really short. But over here, you have location, rotation, scale, etc. And scale, the blue one is always Z, so you can change the Z height if you want to manipulate your mountains. Okay. I'm going to just reset it. Don't forget the little arrow that's got a twist to it will reset your property back to its default. I'm going to leave it at 100, 100, 100 and tell it to import. And magic will happen. Beautiful magic will happen. Awesomeness. Gotta wait a second. It's compiling a lot of stuff. It's doing a bunch of work for you. And oh, wow, it just gave you gorgeous mountains. Thank you, Unreal. Amazing. And you can fly around and take a look at stuff. Now, I have to tell Unreal where it is I would like to start to play this game. And often we want to use the little +C button up here. It will rando put stuff out into the world. So let's switch back to selection mode. I want to be very, very specific that I want to put my player start into this little valley here. If I right click there, it does a couple cool things. It puts the asset on the surface of the thing you just right clicked on. Fantastic time saver. And then I place actor and I get a bunch of options, including a player start. So this is where I want my game to start. If I double click on player start up here in the outliner, it's going to focus me in on that. Or I can press F, which is wonderful. Then I can start looking around and say, is this where I want to start? Right, do I want to start there? Not really. Maybe I want to start in this little, what it looks like an eroded river valley here. So I can cut this. I can right click on this, edit, cut. I'm going to cut this object. And then I can right click here and I can paste here. Where is that? Edit, paste here, where I right clicked. It's so powerful. So now it pasted it exactly where I wanted it, on the surface of the landscape, not under it, not above it. Get it? And then you double click on it and the capsule's in the right place. If the capsule, which is your player start, little orange lines, is below the ground, it's going to say bad size. Bad size. You can see it there. Bad size. So I got to drag that up. Otherwise, you're going to fall through the world. So I got to drag it up until bad size goes away. And now's a good time to save all. Save all. Cool. Now, it's saving a lot more information now for the level. So for the person that's dealing with the overarching landscape, this is going to be a little bit more time consuming and expensive. And I'm looking into ways to optimize this because saving shouldn't take this long. Now, a lot of folks watching this tutorial might comment and say, get a faster hard drive, bud. I do have a really, really, really fast, awesome hard drive. SSD, USB-C, really fast PC. I'm doing great here. But some reason, I don't know why. Yeah, I'm from Canada, eh? Yeah. Timmy ho ho. I don't know why this is taking so long to save. So it is what it is. Be patient. Take a minute. Sip your coffee. Nice. And then hit play. And just remember that all of that work that just literally took less than 15 minutes, especially if you get good at it and you're not making a tutorial at the same time, looks absolutely beautiful. Like, this is wonderful. And some cool aspects, fun things to play around with, just to get yourself inspired a little bit. I was kind of kidding in class, but I was saying, like, I'm sick of looking at these clouds. There's a brand new cloud system. So when you discover the texture, weird, it's actually a material that drives the way the clouds look. The material itself has now got tons of properties that you can change it to different types of clouds, wispy, stormy, etc. You can mess around with that. But there's another object here called the directional light. And because we clicked on all of those buttons in the environmental light mixer, it gave us one of these directional lights. And it's kind of neat because when you highlight it and you play around with the rotation, the first rotation doesn't seem to do anything. So you rotate it and nothing really happens. The second property, when you rotate it around, that's night and day. So it quickly gives you a day-night cycle, which is really, really cool. So get up in the sky. I'm going to click and drag, and we can put the sun down. You can see it off there in the distance. And then the third property, when you rotate it, is where is the sun relative to the horizon. And you can see right there that little speck, that's actually the sun itself. You can change that. You can make it bigger. You can make it like a big sun in the sky so it feels like you're on the planet of Tatooine. You could put 2 directional lights in the scene and then have 2 suns. So if you wanted to have a binary star system, etc., right, and manipulate, and it's cool. You can change the color, right? So what's the color of my light? So now we have a purplish sky in the world, right? It's super fun. And then hit play, and then now we're on a different kind of planet. We're in an alien world at a different time of day. I'm gonna leave it at that. Probably end up doing a tutorial in the near future on the atmospheric effects that are closer to the player. The frustum is a word that I was talking to my students about, and that's the cone that, if you can imagine, is being shot out from the camera. Then people get confused by when I say camera, but if you're curious, and I am, if you want to, you can go into the third person folder over here on the left side. Third person folder, look into blueprints, and you'll see there is a third person character actor. Double click on it and it will load up the blueprint that drives the character that's running around, and her name is Quinn. There's a male and a female. The other one used to be called Manny. They replaced it with Quinn. Quinn, get it? Mannequin? Because anyway. And click up here where it says viewport, and you can see the objects that are actually driving the third person actor. And we see the actor from here most of the time running around through this. Hey, what's that thing? That's a camera. Holy moly. So all that stuff you're learning in the photography course is 3 of them, right? Drive this thing, all that knowledge. So if I highlight this camera and you look over here, you're like, what the heck? There's all of these things. There's all this stuff. The lens, the depth of field, the bloom, the exposure. You can put a dirt mask on it. That's a PNG file that you can make the lens look dirty, right? That's cool, right? You want to make it look like you've been on this planet for a while and there's been some mud sprayed. You can animate the mud that slides down the camera with a dirt mask, right? What type of camera is it? What's its shutter speed? What's its ISO? What's its aperture? All these things, right? There's method to our madness here at Confederation College, right? We're not just teaching you photography to make you photographers. That camera is going to pop up in After Effects. It's going to pop up in Blender. It's going to pop up in Maya. There's cameras everywhere. Anytime you see something on a screen in any application, there's probably a camera behind it. In an animation context, there's a camera behind everything. So I'm going to leave it at that. And that's cool, is no matter what, it doesn't matter what view you're in, you can always press play. And I'm going to say this as just sort of a philosophical thing to consider while you're doing your home work, which I'm going to start calling home play. Just enjoy it when you press that play button, and just remember that's what this is all about. This is all about play, having fun, having some good old jollies, and enjoying the moment here where you think, okay, well, now I've got this checkerboard, but oh wait, I can go back to my content drawer and I'm going to type in grass. Whoop, I can't find it because I have to click on all, and then grass. Is there some grass? That's okay, cool. I'm going to highlight my landscape, and in my landscape I want to drag on my grass, scroll down here until I find my landscape material, and I'm going to put my free grass onto that, and it's got all those micro and macro variations, which is super cool. Did I just crash my computer? I think I just crashed my computer. Oh, wait a minute. It's coming from space. That's my old joke about waiting for things to come down from the internet. It takes forever to download a JPEG file. Take a sip of your coffee and just be patient. Oh, cool. That grass texture looks very different now because I've now lit the world with a purple sun. That looks super cool. That looks just awesome. You can see the mountains off in the distance. Fly over here. Oh yeah, that looks so good. Yep. And if things are bothering you, like I can't really see what's going on right here, don't forget that in the list on the outliner, you got these little eyeballs. You can turn stuff on and off. Like I might want to turn off my fog right now. So I'm going to turn off my exponential height fog so I can see what's going on a little bit better. Right. If you don't want to see it in game, you're going to have to turn that off. So I highlight the object. I think it's visible. Visible? Yeah. Visible. Turn it off. Type in game. Actor is hidden in game. Turn that off. So you can see it now in development, but at runtime, it's hidden in game. Those are helpful things to do. I'm currently working on a system that when you walk in and out of a building, fog turns on and off. I think I got it working. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. So you guys have a fantastic day. Enjoy doing the things that you should do. And I'm going to sign off. Peace. Have fun.